I'm Margaret Ann Windsor, and the name I have to use is Peggy Ann Dempsey. I'm married to Childers, and I'm giving this quickly as way of reference, and I'm not going to get out documents or papers or anything. I've done that enough on YouTube and Facebook over the years. I was kidnapped in 41 and brought to Moulton, Alabama. I'll say that, and given the name of a twin, Peggy Ann Dempsey, and then I married a Childers. And later in late 83, I found out after a campaign, I was in a campaign to replace U.S. Congressman Dr. Larry McDonald, who I had written about in a medical malpractice book, MD, A License to Kill. It was about programming and mind control, and Mr. Larry Flint of Hustler magazine was shot during that time in Lawrenceville, Georgia, near Marietta, where I was living at Moonraker apartment doing the book. And it's unpublished because what was done to me, okay? I want to go to this, though. Larry Flynn, after then, furnished me a car, and he did an endorsement, which I usually show, saying I knew who was responsible for his shooting. I was driving the Hustler car when I came through Charlottesville, Virginia, never thinking or knowing I would end up here in Roanoke in October of 86. And if you call this living, I've lived on the Appalachian Trail. I've starved and frozen, and everything in the book has been done to me and my sons wherever they are. And I heard that was just learning about my kidnapping and my parents. George O'Keefe's my aunt, and my mom is Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, a school teacher, who married my father, Edward VIII, and she was married to him in 36. It was a plot to take down my father with character assassination. They did a darn good job of it. But this started before my father and mother were ever married. But I can't believe, I really can't believe that my grandfather, George V, said some of the things about my father that they report, because this has all been a string of lies. My father had an addendum to the forced abdication, and in it he said, should he have an heir, the heir would inherit. And it was all legal. It went through channels, proper channels. Now and then, my dad's already married Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, and here you've got Wallace Warfield Simpson marrying a lookalike. I would really like to know who the man was. Of course, they probably had more than one, I'm sure. And that happened in 37, became the illegal Duke and Duchess of Windsor. He was buried at Frogmore, Windsor Castle, 1972. My father, and I know this very well, that it's true. My father and mother were both still alive when I came to Roanoke, Virginia. There's no doubt about my birthright or any of it. The thing that gets so important in here, too, there were treaties. So when my father abdicated and he intended to take it back, it was a forced removal. My God, look at what happened. He's not even married to this woman. Okay, let me try to stick to this and see if I can get it up. My phone is being taken down. They tell me I'm going to lose everything on it because I can't get rid of some of the viruses on it of late, last couple of weeks. But anyway, I was born in 39, and my Uncle George Roosevelt, President Roosevelt, that appointed Joe Kennedy ambassador to England, 36 or 46. Watch the timeline. They kicked him out in 46. His son JFK and the older son Joseph flew in and actually spoke before Parliament. Can you believe it? What bigger heist can you do? than take down a monarch and then kidnap the monarch's daughter, who is a legal monarch. And my own uncle gets into it. And evidently, Elizabeth's mother, well, not evidently, she was close relation, really close to the Rothschilds. So it's the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Bilderbergers, my own uncle, the Freemasons, Joe Kennedy, the Roosevelts. Then you get into Winston Churchill and him a part of it. When he became a part of it, I don't know. If he was actually in on my kidnapping, I think he was, but he burned the Windsor files. He burned the files. I know that there's too many people, or I wouldn't have known it, okay? My hope is that history is made to tell the truth, and these people don't get away with it. So the day I was born, Victoria II, heir to the British crown, and it should have brought my father back as guardian and my power of attorney. It's what happened after then that changed history. Just look at the timeline, what happened after they took my father down and kidnapped me. You had the Jews went back to had Israel. The Jews kidnapped me. You had the United States that invaded the UK, Britain, when they took. It's like going to Washington, D.C., and you're taking over Washington, D.C. Well, you take over the United States. Okay, they positioned themselves because they took down my father. He wouldn't go along with their crap. That wasn't my father. They did any of those dastardly deeds that were attributed to him. The double did it. So I'd like history to be corrected. But the treaties were illegal. The United States and part of my family put a monarch in there that's not a real monarch. They're war criminals, George VI and Elizabeth and her brood. There's illegal treaties that allowed the United States to put their war machines into the UK and position themselves against, my family, Denmark, Sweden, the Netherlands. That's all corrupted now. I mean, that was my family there too, and it's very sad. That's where your Illuminati war crimes, they control it. They're not going to prosecute themselves for what they've done to me. Henry Kissinger, they don't want any of this told to the world. It's so sick. But anyway, they took over, they positioned themselves in the UK, and then they had the world then. They put army bases under the UK. They made the British fight against themselves, having to help the United States in their war crimes. They took over everything, and when I lived on the Appalachian Trail, and believe me, that's rough, the way I lived. I met a lot of people, and a lot of them were British and German and Canadian and Aussies. I met Aussies back when I was doing the book. So I know that the Aussies were there too. So I don't know, I'm going to lose my train of thought here. I've been through so much. So anyway, they went on to Australia, the United States did, and they put an Area 51. You know, they're not supposed to have an Area 51 now. They've proven that's all true. So they put their war machines everywhere. Just look at it. They use the Brits, because they're not friends of the Brits unless now then I'm British. They kidnapped me, and they've done horrible things to my children, who are heirs after me, and I don't even know where they are. So I'm going to get back to Up on the Trail if I can. This is just part of my ongoing life. There were people, I'm going to give an example, though, of one man that had been in the Army, and he brought his nephew, who was about 12, maybe 12 years old. And they came up and spent the night because I was living on the Appalachian Trail on a hiker's hut. uh, Lean to, or whatever you want to call it, in the winter and everything, and part of the time on the ground. um, but anyway, this man was like a lot of other, and he was legit. The boy made sense. His uncle. This was his uncle. He said it was the first time he had seen his uncle in a long time, and his uncle had been in one of the Caribbean. I think it was Bermuda. I'm not sure, but anyway, his uncle said that when he talked to me, the uncle did. He said, "I came up here. I might as well work for the Brits as work for the United States." Well, he was an American, so at least he had the guts to do the right thing, or try to. Anyway, he said to me, he said that in what's going on, the United States goes in and takes over everything British, and then makes the British even pay for half of it. I want to get to this real quick because it fits in here. In 1980, after I was almost killed and the book obviously didn't get published, I worked for the district attorney Fred Simpson in Madison County, Huntsville, Alabama, the Space Center. Guess who helped with money and ransom comes in all forms, like Werner von Braun and the scientists coming over here and building your space center there. It became your space center. Then it was called Kennedy down in Cape Canaveral, it was, and then Kennedy put their name on everything. The low-life scumbags. And it's not okay what they did to me and my dad and my country. Hell no. So, before I get to Simpson, of course, was like a clue to my identity. I didn't know at the time. I didn't find out until late 83. As in, Wallace Warfield Simpson was supposed to marry my father and become the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. A total lie. The next job I had was for Doyle Duke, Golden Triangle on Sparkman Drive. You have to know where Senator Sparkman, who Lina Dempsey, mother of the twins, the psychopath, she killed the twins, and I lived in that atmosphere and had to use Peggy's name, and the abuse is horrible. It was my jobs and was part of this whole thing, patterns, and then I found out about my kidnapping in 83. And one of the jobs I had was at Cumberland Mall in Marietta. I believe that's considered Marietta or Atlanta suburb. And it was for Citadel Cement. Well, it was huge back then. I don't know what it's like now, if it even exists. But it was owned by Canada, the UK, and the United States. You can follow me on that. So my jobs were like clues to my identity and where I learned a lot. I was meant to go. I know that now. You can't tell the pain and suffering and crimes that were committed against me and my children here. So I'm going to get to this. Anastasia, that was here in Charlottesville, Virginia, married a Manahan. He was a professor at University of Virginia. And it's a long story there that is shocking to me. I know what happened to the woman, and I wish I could have met her. She's a cousin to mine, just like she is to Elizabeth and Philip Mountbatten. She fought for her life, her name, and she really is Anastasia. I know the part about what happened to her after I went through. Still had the Larry Flint Hustler car leased to me in 84, and I went through, and they've changed the dates. They've gone and done the dates, and I can prove that on her murder, and she was murdered. And it's scary to tell it because it just goes higher and higher up to who took out Tsar Nicholas and let's see if I can remember his name. That was Woody. Woodrow Wilson, you get a horror story with the presidents that were involved and the senators, and you're going to tell me your Senate now doesn't know all this? Um, they need investigated and locked up. Anyway, Anastasia was for real. It's not that hard to fake a DNA, believe me. Uh, I can go on and it won't fit. I can't tell it all here. I've tried to. I had documents given to me when I ended up back in Roanoke and then up in Charlottesville about 1990, I guess, or 92. Documents that were given to me. He had to know I was, well, he said he did. Someone Xeroxed them, gave them to him. They're documents that took place in Charlottesville, and this is court documents. I've tried to tell us before about that much, okay? And I had to carry it around, and I tried to, and Xerox it on money. I had to scramble to stay alive. And I Xeroxed it. I took it to I've gone to all of it with the local channels here, and they won't touch anything. So the document stated this is after Anna was murdered, and she was murdered using the mental health system. So look back at her background and what this woman went through, and she really is. And then to be called an imposter, no, the rest of them were imposters. She wasn't. She was legit. They murdered her, and then you get Althea, a real estate dealer that tried to move in on Manahan, her husband, after she was killed, and take over the farm in Scottsville, near here, in between here in Roanoke and it's outskirts of Charlottesville. Okay, and you get another, I'm not going to say him right now. He had no power of anything, should not even have been involved. His office was next to hers, so they were friends in Charlottesville. He bypassed Manahan, who's a professor, and had her committed. They killed her. They flat ass killed the woman and changed history in it. So you think this shouldn't be told? I hope to God it's told. And now I'm going to jump now because I'm going to get off of this. I've put it up and it doesn't seem to do any good. Until I'm called before Congress or somewhere, or the United Nations would be quite appropriate, wouldn't it? And I'm able to tell this mess, and you tell me I'm lying? No. It proves itself. I haven't lied. You haven't even heard any of it yet. And I've stood here hoping to clear my father's name, and I'm going to get to this now. Someone invited me. I'm on Facebook and YouTube, and somebody took my, guess what her name was? Queen. And she got a house out of this, a beautiful home out of the part she played in this. Across from where I used to go up on the Appalachian Trail and freeze and starve, and you can't imagine. Most men couldn't have done that either. Anyway, she got a home out of it. Her adopted twins are biological twins. I'm not going to try to fit this into the rest of it, how it fits in, but she's sitting there with this beautiful home. You wouldn't believe it. Across from where I used to go up on the trail. Met her a couple of years ago. She's got biological daughters, and I'm not going to say their names, only it's important in all this, but their name was Castle before she adopted them, and they became Queen, Castle Queen. Okay, she took down my phone Easter of last year, the day before Easter, and I had a rough time now, and now this one has got viruses, and I can't get rid of them. So anyway, I hope everything's not depleted. So now where am I going with this? I wanted to address, and this is what she loves, I found out. She can't let go. It really upsets me that a woman that has no right